What's up guys, my name is Liam and today we're going to be checking out Pulsar's Superglide glass mouse pad. This thing has really taken me by surprise with its insane premium build quality and it feels great. But is this going to be the perfect gaming mouse pad for you? Let's check it out. Guys, and here we got the Pulsar Superglide gaming mouse pad, and I want to let you know off the bat, this is the XL version. This comes in at the same size as the Artisan mouse pads. It's got a width of 49 centimeters and it has a height of 42 centimeters. And when it comes to the overall design of the mouse pad, before I even got it in hands, I felt like it was going to be something similar to the Superglide glass skates. And for those of you that have experience with these skates, they are just incredibly smooth to the touch. They have a very flat and slippery feeling along the surface. And what I can tell you guys is that this glass mouse pad stands apart from the glass feet. And so far my experience with this mouse pad is that it has been incredibly consistent and it performs phenomenally for me. Starting with the base of this mouse pad, it has a silicone base from edge to edge. This base sticks so well to your desk that you can barely even move it around once it gets stuck on there. If you were to push on the corners of this mouse pad in the middle towards the center, it just feels completely consistent through and through. I don't get any type of play, not on the sides, not towards the middle, nothing. It just feels solid all the way across the board. So I can confidently say that when it comes to the base of this mouse pad, this is by far the best base I've ever used on any type of a hard style pad. And the thickness of this glass mouse pad is coming in at 4 millimeters. No matter how I place this mouse pad on my desk, whether I decide to move it further forward or anything like that, I didn't have any issues with the thickness of the mouse pad. It has these beveled edges. It's really smooth and it never felt like it was too thick to where it was bothering me or felt uncomfortable in any type of a way. So when it comes to the actual build of this glass mouse pad, it is actually consisted of 4 layers. It is made out of Gorilla Glass, so it is very durable, very solid. And the top layer of this mouse pad is actually a special textured surface of glass. When I've seen pictures or watched other videos on this mouse pad, you can see the texture, and I always kind of wondered if it had kind of like a rocky or rough surface. And I have to say it's absolutely neither of those. The surface of this mouse pad is incredibly smooth to the touch. And though I've mentioned earlier it does not have that slippery feeling like the Superglide glass skates, it still has that incredibly smooth glass feeling to it. When I did first start using this mouse pad, I actually came from the Lamzu Energon, and that is a speed pad, but it has quite a bit of control to it still. It did take me a little bit of an adjustment period to get used to it. There's literally almost zero static friction when moving the mouse. And if you're not coming from another glass mouse pad, or you've never used another glass mouse pad before, in the beginning you do kind of find an issue where you feel like you kind of overshoot where you were intended to place your cursor. But since with my experience way back in the days to main hard pads, and I've used similar types of surfaces before, it honestly didn't take me very long to adjust to it. After 1 or 2 games, I was back into it, and once I got used to the overall speed of the mouse pad, I was actually surprised at how much control you actually do have with this mouse pad with it being glass. With something like an Artisan pad or the Lamzu Energon or any other type of cloth pad, you kind of want to play with a loose grip on it and then start to push into it more as you're coming to a stop. And what I felt like benefited me most with this pad is if I was more aggressive with it and pushed more into it throughout the whole process. And And when I adjusted to this thing, I just think it feels phenomenal and it gives you a lot of confidence with the surface. I never felt like I had an issue where I didn't have control or I didn't stop on the dime where I meant to be. And even though there is kind of that adjustment period to get used to it, once you actually get it dialed in and nailed down, you get a feel for it, this thing just feels phenomenal. Some of the only real drawbacks I found with this mouse pad is number one was the noise. And though it never really affected me or impacted me that much, I figured it's something I can bring up if you find something like this to be an issue to you. If you do get any type of like dust or dirt on here or on the bottom of your skates and you start using it, it definitely is very loud and it has a scratchy feeling. You can just wipe the surface of the mouse pad off with a dry cloth or anything like that and the issue seemed to go away right away. I did notice that some skates were kind of louder as I first started out using this glass mouse pad, but maybe they just worn a little bit after that. I didn't have too much of an issue. So let's go ahead and drop a sound test on just a couple of different types of skates really quick so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So as you can see, there has just a slight scratchy sound there, and I did leave in a part where there was a little hair that got stuck on here, and it did kind of give you that chalky overall kind of scratchy feel. But again, you just lift it up, wipe it away, it goes away, it's no issues at all. And then finally, when it comes to the overall surface of the pad, it is a little bit on the stickier side. It's not as smooth as cloth, and honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. I have had many other hard pads in the past that seemed way stickier. The TJ Exclusives Cerapad definitely being one of them, where your arm seems to stick to it a bit more than this one. But I did kind of notice if you're going to be in a heavy humidity climate, it might be best to use like an arm sleeve or something like that. I did find that I did get better results when using an arm sleeve with this mouse pad, but I basically am mostly only a wrist aimer. So with that being said, I don't really move my forearm around very often, and I honestly didn't really ever see it becoming that much of an issue with this gaming mouse pad. So what I'll do really quick is I'll go ahead and I'll give you a sound test with me rubbing my arm across the mouse pad, and then what I'll do is I'll dampen my arm down, I'll get it wet, and I'll rub it across there so you guys can see how that performs. So as you guys can see there, it definitely makes a difference. It sticks a little bit more to the pad, but it was never an issue to where like I felt like I couldn't move my forearm or anything like that. But I do have to say, with my experience using several hard pads in the past, that this is definitely one of the better performing ones when it comes to humidity. All right, so when it comes to the performance of this mouse pad and how it performs with different types of gaming mice and feet on the market, it's honestly pretty consistent all the way across the board. I do feel like if you're using smaller style feet, that you're still going to get the same kind of a fast, smooth glide as you would with a mouse with bigger feet. The only one thing that I have really noticed is you do get a little tiny bit of an advantage if you're using bigger skates towards the front. Just basically with how I perform being a wrist aimer and stuff, if you're moving the mouse around, it does give you slightly a little bit control, but it's incredibly minimal. It's absolutely not going to be game-changing stuff, but I did kind of feel like some of the mice that performed best on here was the Pulsar X2, the Endgame Gear XM2WE. And I just really like the feeling of the Superlight with this huge mouse skate in the front. Again, once you get rough with it and push into it, I feel like this thing was just stopping on a dime for me. And I would say overall, the smaller and lighter that the mice are, I just feel like they perform absolutely the best on this mouse pad. When we start doing these really fast swipes on smooth surfaces, I feel like it's when these really light mice start to excel. And if I had to pick an absolute favorite combination right here, without doubt, it's going to be the HSK PRO with this glass mouse pad. I must say, obviously, it really comes down to you and your playstyle preference. I do know people that do like to do fingertip grip with more of a control style pad. However, with my personal preference and how I play, using fingertip grip, especially with smaller mice, on this glass mouse pad for me is just an absolute must. When you plant your palm into the top of the mouse pad and you're just using your fingertips to get the most control for the micro adjustments, this combination to me almost just felt perfect. And again, when you adapt to the overall surface, speed, and feeling of the surface of this glass mouse pad with this mouse, just making those corrections, those micro adjustments, it made it easier than any other experience that I've ever used before. So if you are playing high movement, fast pace, high time to kill shooters, and you found yourself in those engagements, you know, having a harder time making corrections fast enough or anything like that, I would definitely recommend giving this a shot. And the final thing I'd like to mention about this mouse is I don't know what it is, but these skates just work phenomenal on this mouse pad. All right, next up, I'll compare it to a couple of the top speed pads out there on the market to kind of give you an idea on what you'd be looking at here. So when it comes to pads like the Hyate or the Hyate Otsu, they definitely have a much different feeling over the Superglide. The Hyate Otsu, it does have a scratchier feeling here. So when you are comparing the audible differences between these two pads, they do honestly sound pretty similar. However, I do feel like the Hyate Otsu is a bit slower of a surface than the Superglide. I would say overall the stopping power on the Hyate Otsu, it does have a little bit more stopping power, but they're honestly pretty similar. And the Superglide has way less initial friction and an overall faster glide. And next up, a mouse pad I like to compare it to is going to be the Artisan Shindenkai. For those of you that don't know about the Artisan Shindenkai, this is actually a glass infusion mouse pad. It has these little glass beads on top of the surface and it has an incredibly smooth and fast glide. And I do want to let you guys know at one point I actually did main this mouse pad and I used it primarily for fingertip grip. And when it comes to the overall comparison between these two gaming mouse pads, I do feel like the Shindenkai is a little bit louder than the actual Pulsar Superglide gaming mouse pad. And let's drop a sound test really quick. So hopefully you can tell they are pretty similar, but I do feel like the Shindenkai is just a tiny bit louder. So when it comes to the speed of these two mouse pads, they're honestly very similar. And where the difference between these two mouse pads lie is I feel like overall the Superglide gives you a bit more control. The Shindenkai, I've always kind of had an issue with stopping power on this mouse pad. And besides the fact that the Shindenkai has all kinds of build inconsistencies with the beads always falling out, the glide not staying as consistent over time. And I do find that once you're making swipes, if you're trying to get the maximum stopping power and you're actually trying to push into the pad, you absolutely get more control and stopping power on the Superglide. Overall, I feel like the Superglide is much more consistent and I have way more confidence playing on this mouse pad versus the Artisan Shindenkai. Alright guys, and that's my final thoughts here on the Pulsar Superglide. This mouse pad is actually coming at $95. And really when you think about it, yeah, that is pricier over standard cloth mouse pads. However, you have to take into consideration, I've never really had any type of a cloth mouse pad that didn't wear out over time. I would say just about every pad out there that I've used, once you hit that 1 year mark, it starts to kind of wear in and become a little bit more inconsistent. And if you were to compare the outsides of the mouse pad to the middle where you mostly spend your time in, that's where you notice it starts to wear in and overall the glide just feels less consistent and you usually have to swap them out at that point. And I would have to say that's probably one of the biggest selling points when it does come to this glass mouse pad. So the fact that Pulsar actually found a way to put the actual texture and surface in a completely different layer that's on top of the mouse pad, as long as you take care of this mouse pad, don't put glass skates on top of it or use any other types of hard surfaces, keep it nice and clean, I would imagine that this mouse pad can last you just about forever. So with all that being said, who would I recommend this mouse pad to? Again, if you've ever had any experience on a hard pad, you do like faster performing pads, you want to get the fastest glide possible. If you've ever used anything like an Artisan Shindenkai, I absolutely think that this is the best option for you out there right now. And I have found that this pad works best for me when using fingertip grip. And I'm not saying this pad can't be used for a relaxed claw grip or a palm grip or anything like that. It's just if you are coming from a traditional cloth pad and you're used to that type of control, then this is a little bit different to get used to. You can absolutely pull it off if it's something that you're really into or you're interested in. But again, you do have to keep in mind that this is something that is a little bit different and does give you an absolutely unique experience. So anyways, with all that being said, this is absolutely one of my top pads and it's absolutely going to stick in the rotation for me. And if you're looking to get in the fastest speed possible while still being able to maintain control, then I'd highly recommend you checking out this pad. Alright guys, so if you have any questions or you feel like there's anything I left out in the video, please let me know down in the comments below. But aside from that, if you're looking at picking up this pad, they just launched a silver edition. It looks really sweet. They have some other limited drops on this pad coming out and even a bigger desk version in the future. I'm going to go ahead and leave links for all those down in the description below if you're interested in checking those out and supporting the channel. And if you're interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.